Hi, everyone. My name is Siobhan Arthurs. I'm an associate professor at Seton Hill University in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm going to show you different ways I've used social media in the classroom. I'm going to spend most of the time talking about how I utilize Twitter throughout an entire class, and then I'm going to provide some other effective examples of ways to engage students in social media during class for effective class use. So first, I'm going to talk about in the social media that I used in the classroom and the description of what it was, provide some student examples, and then touch on various ways you can use social media in different types of courses and the versatility in it, as well as different ways that I have personally utilized social media that have been effective even well beyond that classroom environment. So, in using social media in the classroom as a overall class piece, I've used in my crime and media courses. And in particular, I'm going to choose examples from the course I taught back in 2017 because those students have been long graduated. This is an old account. So there's no real issues with sharing some of that different information, but I still utilize it in my crime and media courses today, and the students really enjoy getting use of this type of medium to discuss various types of coursework. So for the crime and media, I have a Twitter page and I create different Twitter pages. So I stop them and recreate them for each class because I have the students follow me in the class and I don't want there to be any awkward moments of adding and following and unfollowing after the class and things like that. So I tell them, there's no holds to the account. I'm not looking at your information. This is very specific to the course. So there's nothing that they need to worry about. And I also advise them that they're able to create a separate Twitter account from the personal one. Some students choose to use their personal Twitter accounts. Others create a Twitter just specifically for this course. That's fine. Again, it's purely a tool that I use to engage in the class specifically. So they don't have to, keep it long term. I tell them also that they can unfollow it. I've deleted and revamped and recreated the pages for courses as well. So some of it's archived, and I've created different tags and different emails so that there's really no worry about students finding your personal information and things like that related to this coursework. And this is just an example of the page I created, as well as with my name and title and the tag for the page. So this was utilized in a few different ways, and they are required to provide Twitter updates with the course hashtag. And there's in-class activities we do with it, as well as general communication links with me with the students. So it goes well beyond our course platforms that we use as well, our learning management systems. So the first example is Twitter update. So students were required to be up to date on current events in the criminal justice area and where these elements were present within the media. So the Twitter posts were part of their participation grade for the semester. So I outlined it in the syllabus, and that they were required to do 6 tweets per month in relation to course material for that given time, the class, the week, etc., with a corresponding weekly hashtag. So what I do every time I teach the course is I just have our Seton Hill University SHU crim and then the year. So for this year, it was 17. Again, these students have graduated since this class. This one was specific to the fall semester. So I excluded August and December. So really they had just had September, October, and November, but they were able to tweet in August early to actually count for the September tweets. At the start of each class period, also, I would highlight certain student tweets that directly related to the material for that day or was of interest. And often students would ask if we could discuss certain topics that were brought to light from the hashtag. So it provided really neat discussion points. And we would spend about 10 to 15 minutes at the starts of class going over those materials. And these are examples of some of the student tweets. The first one was a Facebook toast, the DeFranco Nation. This tweet was in reference to an ESPN reporter being pulled from casting because his name was Robert Lee, which was similar to General Lee and potentially had racial implications. It was relevant to our discussion because we discussed rioting issues stemming from General Lee statues, the Confederate flag, and other related materials. We discussed the implications of highlighting stories like this one in the media and how exactly it frames the information, along with the types of social media influence that it holds. The other tweet, the burglar caught on camera, this tweet was one of those outlandish crime stories that's often highlighted in the media that fit within our discussion of moralized panics within the criminal justice system that are often framed by the media. So the students enjoyed finding these outlandish stories and discussing the oddities in the crime. And we were also able to discuss our social media understandings of what a criminal is, which often stems from bizarre stories like this one. The last one, the Cash Me Outside girl, has another tweet. This tweet fit in specifically with our discussion of hood mentality, quote unquote. Dr. Phil a while ago featured a juvenile delinquent on his show called Danielle Brajoli, aka called the Cash Me Outside girl. She was on the show specifically because she habitually stole clothes from her mother and assaulted her mother. She became a national name because she threatened to fight the entire Dr. Phil audience and declared to the audience, "Cash me outside, how about that?" And the reason for the broken English was to emphasize that she spoke in a quote unquote hood language that she claimed to learn quote unquote from the streets. Danielle grew up in a middle class rural background, far from our general association of what the streets is or what it means socially. So what she learned to be hood was based on what she saw, largely from different media details. And because she was essentially becoming the epitome of what is displayed to us in the media. We discussed her throughout the semester because she was actually declared an official millionaire during our semester. And it was interesting, like her rise to celebrity status, all stemming from her delinquency, was a huge issue in the media portrayal of the system. There were memes, songs, memorabilia created and sold from this incident. And obviously, we as consumers bought into the madness of it. And we discussed the relative social implications from that. I also utilize social media for in-class activities as well. I provided a few examples of that. So the third example I have, the social media styling. I had my students create their own social media stylings related to criminal justice. For example, we discussed crime as entertainment on TV that essentially makes up over 80% of what we view and how it dramatizes the system. So there was a hashtag related to movies that was explain a film plot badly to demonstrate how cliche movie plots can be. So I applied the same to crime on TV and in movies and directed students to find their own demonstrations of this and tag it with hashtag explain a crime plot badly. And to demonstrate the cliche ways crime is integrated into TVs and movies. So this is an example from one that they said a veteran cop trains rookie cop for first day of work to explain a crime plot badly along with our hashtag. And other ways I utilize this is during the policing section of the course with the article finds, I highlighted the media scrutiny through the past few years dated from the incidents in Ferguson, Missouri through current at the time. And regarding the policing ideas, I have my students categorize them into positive policing, negative policing, and neutral emotionality. So I had the students for this day each find an article related to policing and then relate our hashtag to it. The largest category mentioned was in negative policing, meaning it was a poor outlook on the police or a negative policing incident or a negative tone towards the police in the article that the student found. And we discussed the implications of this overall as a class and the potential weight and influence the media can have in shaping our view of policing overall. And with the survey polls, I conducted surveys in various areas of the course. One example was when we were discussing courts in the media and the historical context. I used the O.J. Simpson trial and I polled the students with if they thought O.J. Simpson was guilty of the murder in the Brown and Goldman case. And I asked my students who voted yes why they thought he was guilty. And many said, because I just know he is, and could not concretely give actual reasons, like the evidence, the court proceedings, details of the incident, et cetera, because this happened before they were born. And it was at that point that they realized the influence of the media. Also, and secondhand information from the media into friends and family about the case and what they've learned growing up. Believing in the guilt of a party without knowing any information of the actual case is a huge bias that drives many of these types of high-profile cases. And we had a large discussion around it and critical examination of other high-profile cases like O.J. Simpson's. So the third way I had used Twitter was as a communication link for my students overall. And I use it to relay back assignment details, send reminders, and just general open dialogue for the course related material. For example, when we discussed serial killer phenomena, I had my students create their own serial killer TV series utilizing the general plot line requirements they learned about earlier in the course, like during our infotainment and entertainment discussion. And I highlighted ones discussed via our Twitter hashtag, and I asked students to vote on which they thought was best. And for this one, you can see that they thought that the Straight Out of Greensburg context was the best overall. And I just provided the example of summarizing one of them. That In My Shoes, the series follows the life of a serial killer who kills with his curious pet bunny, who begins to talk to him and assists in the killing. The other example I put was just an update that I had since we discussed the O.J. Simpson case in detail. His early release from prison on unrelated charges provided good additional discussion for us at the time. It was also convenient for me to be able to quickly tweet out talking points throughout the week as I found them. And it served as a great reminder once class came, because the students were actually more in touch with their phones and our Twitter than they were in the things that I'm actually posting in our learning management system. And then I provided general commentary to the class as well. Some was lighthearted in nature, but provided a reminder to the students at the end of class to continue to be socially aware of these influences around them. So I wanted to additionally point out other ways you can use social media. So that was just one example. And again, I continue to use that Twitter in my crime and media class as it is relevant today. I teach it about like every other year or so. So I've taught it once since that 2017 course. But there are other course examples and ways you can utilize it. So other courses I've utilized social media in, with my gangs and gang behavior class, I used WhatsApp, and I had my students create mini gangs and they affiliated across campus. We didn't do any actual gang activity, but I had them recruit faculty, staff, and administration, and they used WhatsApp as a medium to make threats and locate and take turfs and, kind of create dialogue between the class as a quick points. And they utilized it like throughout the class. And I was in it as well. So I was able to monitor. And WhatsApp is good because you don't actually have to exchange phone numbers through the WhatsApp. So everything's protected, and my, cell phone information is protected as well. For study abroad trips that I've done, I use Instagram and TikTok and have students post different videos and summaries of what they do in learning sessions. And I actually use it as a journaling, the type of like almost blog journaling, but active journaling that they do throughout the trip that becomes part of their assessment once we get home. So I've noticed I had students do writing journals my first time, and they were on their phones far more and taking notes and adding notes because they would either like leave their journals or they wouldn't want to carry them. So actually being able to take pictures, utilize videos, and type up things quick on social media helped a lot for them to maintain the knowledge and understanding of what we did throughout the trip. And then lastly, I've used it in comparative criminology as well. And I have students use all types because they actually create social media activism that they use their own social media accounts for, and they create programs, and they've utilized pretty much every platform to do this. And it's an assessment to look at slacktivism versus activism, and then they do a presentation on it at the end of our class. So in summary, really, where can you take social media? Obviously, you can use it in future courses, and you can adapt your materials around it for your students and create things for student initiatives. So for example, like our Alpha Phi Sigma group and our Criminal Justice Club utilizes social media. I also let them become administrators for our social media pages for the criminal justice program, so they can do live videos when we have events and things like that. And I leave it to like club officers. So there's different ways you can even go beyond the classroom into other, university environments as well. And also for assessment purposes, you can absolutely present the materials and how you do this and the unique teaching engagement you use for conferences as well as publications. So it's really, multifaceted the way that you can use this information. And really, our students are so tuned into social media, why not actually use it as an engagement piece in the classroom? So I thank you for listening. And here's my information. You're welcome to email me and contact me for further information, or if you would like me to share any materials about what I've talked about, I would happily do it. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.